Right, good evening, everybody. Yes, so this is a webinar introducing some wildlife identification and recording techniques. Katie's done the kind of introduction. So yes, I'm the Wilder Communities Officer. So the format, or what we want to cover, what is a biological record and why record, some general recording with iNaturalist and iRecord, and those are the kind of two main apps that are useful for recording, and you can set up projects within those apps, so we'll kind of cover that as well. And you can use those apps and some other websites for exploring different records in your area, and they're also we'll also cover some recording and monitoring schemes and how to identify wildlife resources. So what is a biological record? Well, these are the four key things that you need to include. So who the recorder is, who identified the species, obviously what you've recorded, and that's fine if you're not 100% sure. And yeah, if you can get a photograph, that's ideal to sort of get some help with identification. Where you found it, and we'll cover these obviously in a bit more detail, and the date you recorded it. So those are the kind of key things we need to make it a more of a formal record. So why record and survey? So there's a few points here: increasing our understanding of nature and connection to nature. So really, the more records we have, the more we can kind of analyze, and scientists can use that data to kind of better understand the health of the environment, for example, at both a local level and also a kind of UK-wide level. And yeah, connection to nature, taking that time to kind of observe what's around you and encouraging others to do the same helps sort of raise awareness. It's really useful to provide that initial baseline of data from which to continue with regular monitoring of a species or habitat. So that baseline data gives you that initial kind of survey information, and then regular monitoring can be really useful to continue that survey gathering to sort of measure change, I suppose, and changes in the habitat and changes in response to climate change. Then we can use it to evaluate biodiversity of a site, and that's important to understand and kind of evaluate a little bit what biodiversity, what species are present, and that obviously informs the management approach for that particular site and gives you more evidence of kind of what species are present, and that might be useful for things like funding. Obviously, it's good to know if you've got any particular rare or protected species, which is going to be important to just understand if you've got those present on a site. I mentioned about raising awareness. So yeah, it can be useful to have those records and be able to sort of tell people about them and raise awareness in your community. So to encourage people to value and look after the places that are right there on our doorstep often. Contributes to research and action at a local and national scale. So scientists sort of working locally, but also nationally for something like the UK butterfly monitoring scheme, for example, can feed into those trends across the UK. And also, yes, in terms of having local records available for different organisations like the council and developers that might be doing data searches and trying to understand what's in the area. Whoops, sorry. So yeah, a bit about general recording first of all. So really, it is recording everyday sightings can help scientists learn more about wildlife. So it's not just the rare species we're interested in; it is those kind of everyday sightings, and building up that picture is really valuable in terms of the data, and that can help us understand how common certain species are, where they're found, and whether they're moving in response to climate change. So, for example, we know that butterflies and moths are moving further north with a warming climate. So all the monitoring and recording is sort of tracking that change. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to record and share your records. Yes, the most simple one is obviously just a notebook to sort of note down what you're seeing on a walk round or even in your garden. And you can then sort of take that information and put it into an Excel spreadsheet, like is shown below. and you can share that with the Hampshire Biological Information Centre. Now that's an organisation, it's Hampshire County Council sort of based, and they collate a lot of the records that come in from all across the county, and sort of share those with different organisations. And they also provide and support, and there's a network of county recorders. So, for example, there's a Hampshire butterfly recorder. There's a recorder for the Hampshire Ornithological Society. There's the bat group, so they have different recorders for those specific species groups. So it's useful to kind of be aware of those if you're interested in particular species groups. And this Excel spreadsheet, the example there, is available as a template on Hampshire Biological Information website. So you can download that, and this obviously shows that the sort of the very basic information of the species name, the common name, the abundance, obviously how many you saw, the date, the site name, and the grid reference, and the recorder's name as the kind of essential information. And online, there are certainly some easy and free tools for a grid reference finder, for example. I think there's an online tool called the Grid Reference Finder, actually, and you can just zoom into a map and click on it, and that will give you the grid reference. So this is just a screenshot actually from the Hampshire Biological Information Centre, and obviously the links are there. And I should mention we can, I believe, share these slides so you can refer to them and use all these links as well. So yeah, it talks about there's a sort of species recording page on the HBIC website, and so there's that county recorder list. You can easily download and see the different county recorders and the recording groups on that list as well. A living record is actually there. They do have their own online wildlife recording system, and that's something that you can look at in more detail if you're interested, that groups can use as well. Yeah, it's probably one for more experienced recorders. The recording spreadsheet that I mentioned is there, available for download, and then iRecord is on there, which we'll come on to, a link to the kind of iRecord website. So yeah, as I mentioned, there's different ways of recording, but some of the main ones are the smartphone apps, but there are also websites. If you don't have a smartphone, there are websites that are linked to some of those apps you can use that enable you to share your records. And the two main ones we're going to cover are iRecord and iNaturalist. So iNaturalist is great for beginners, because you can upload a photo of what you've seen. You don't necessarily need to know what species it is, and other experts will help confirm the identification. But yeah, it is sort of fairly reliant on getting a photograph and being able to upload it. An iRecord, you don't have to have a photograph with that, but it is better for perhaps more experienced recorders, where you're confident of the species ID and kind of put that in when you're adding your record. But it still, we'll come on to it, but that does have kind of photo recognition as well. So we're going to look at each of those apps in turn, just to sort of take you through how to add a record. So hopefully you're a bit more familiar and can go out and have a go yourself. So this is on a smartphone. You can go to the App Store on an Apple iPhone, or the Play Store on an Android phone to download the iNaturalist app. You will need to set up a kind of an account with an email, and it's important that you allow the app access to the camera and location on the phone so that it can use those facilities. This is like the home screen, if you like, on the right hand side there, that you can see with some of my records, and there are links there with more detail on getting started with iNaturalist, and they've got some video tutorials as well. So it allows users to record, they're kind of called observations of plants and animals using photos, and you can also do audio recording, so bird song, for example. And with the sound or the photograph, the app can suggest possible identifications, and when you upload those on the phone, the community of different iNaturalist members help confirm the ID for you. So once it has been confirmed, it needs a few people, I think, to sort of verify it, if you like. It becomes research grade, and that means it can then be added to other biodiversity databases such as iRecord. So that makes it sort of more formal and can be used by the scientists and different organisations that I mentioned. So yeah, it's a great tool for learning, really, to improve your ID skills and connect with the nature community, because it's can be an online shared tool, and also the nature community and other people that are using iNaturalist. And you can set up a project, which is really useful to lets you pool your observations with other users. So, for example, you can set up a project that covers one single area. It could be just a verge or a green space or a recreation ground or a park or even a small nature reserve. And actually, well, it can be bigger areas as well. But then anybody can join that project and add records to it. And actually, I'll come on to projects and explain that in a bit more detail in the next few slides. So here's going from left to right, just to give you an idea of the process. So here you've got your home screen. Hopefully you can see my cursor. In the bottom right there, you can see that plus sign. So that's where you would press to add a new record or observation. This is the next screen here, and you can see you can either take a photo right there and then, or choose an image from your library, and the same with sounds. So I've just set up an example here. I've added a photograph of a plant, which has been added here. We haven't got to the identification stage yet, and I'll show you that in a minute, but this has automatically put in the date when I added the photo, and it doesn't have a location yet, but you can add this information, and you can see where there at the bottom there you can add it to a project if you set up a project. So to get the identification, you can just click on this what did you see button, and that brings up this sort of search screen. And it's recognized this plant that I put in as a hogweed. So yeah, if you're happy with that suggestion and reasonably confident that it's likely to be seen in that area, you can just click on the hogweed button there, and that will add that record, add that observation. Let's just go to the next page. So yes, you can see here now that it's added hogweed to my page, and then I've clicked on the location button, and what I've done here is searched for New Alresford, which is where we took the record. So if you're making the record at the time when you're in New Alresford, it can just automatically find that for you, but you can also add the location like I was doing here at a later date. So I searched for New Alresford and then zoomed into the park where I sort of took that photograph and clicked on the map, and as you can see, that's added the kind of location information to this window. In this image, it's now added hogweed. You can see in the thumbnails here, in the top left there, and you can click on that thumbnail, and I've done that actually for the common daisy record or observation here, and you can see in this screen, if you look at the data quality here, you can see that has been ID'd, and a number of people have confirmed the identification, and it's reached research grade, which means it can be shared more widely and used by scientists and go onto the iRecord database. So yeah, there are other useful features on iNaturalist, so you can explore records with it, which is quite useful if you've not seen that before. So this is the menu, these three lines here, and you can see some different menu items here on the left. So if you click explore, You can then use the map tool that's shown in this window, and you can zoom in to anywhere you like. And I've just zoomed into Godalming here, and you then click search map area, and it brings up all the records within that area shown on the screen of your phone. Yeah, the different markers correspond to the different records. I think green is plants, for example. And you can see it's really easy to see there. You've got over 500 observations and over 300 species, 53 observers within that area. If you click on then the thumbnail tool on this button here, it takes you to this screen where you can see all the different observations and the different photos that have been submitted. So again, quite an easy, quick reference way of seeing what's in the area. And you can see the different categories across the top here. So yeah, again, you can click on the species one, which is shown in this screen. And you can see the number of species. You've got a species list arranged by kind of abundance level. So the common Quaker moth there is the sort of top of the list with 9 observations. So again, another useful tool. And if you've got an Apple iPhone, then it's the iNaturalist app is a slightly newer version, which I'll just quickly show you, just to hopefully avoid any confusion. So this is only on available on Apple iPhones, and it's slightly more automated kind of interface where it incorporates Seek, if you've heard of the Seek app, which is where you can point the phone at a plant or an animal. You don't actually need to take a photograph, and it automatically gives you a suggested identification, and also helpfully here gives you a confidence rating. So obviously if it's up towards 99%, you can be pretty confident you have got the particular species that it's suggesting. It's also a bit more automated with the location, so it's automatically assuming you're where you're submitting the record, where you found it. It automatically gives you that location, and you hit save, and that's added the observation. And you just then, once you're happy with that observation, all the details, you can upload it. Press this little arrow here, and that will upload the observation so that it's shared with the community. Which you can see here, that's an uploaded observation. So yeah, just to mention about projects in iNaturalist, which I mentioned before, you can set them up on the website and then join via the app. So they're called collection projects, and that allows you to gather and visualize observations using the core iNaturalist tools. So you can zoom in and specify a particular area, like a local verge you might be managing, or your garden, or a park or recreation ground, that kind of thing. And then anybody, you can have multiple users, and so you can record as a group, so anybody can join the project and submit observations in that area, which is quite useful to sort of collate different observations for that area. And as it says there, you can have data visualizations and different ways of representing the data. And it includes obviously any existing data before you, or can include existing data before you set up the project. And you can have as many projects as you like. For example, if you are looking after a number of verges or some different areas within your where you live or nearby, you can set up a number of projects, and they can be collated in an umbrella project, as it says there. And you can compare statistics, so you could compare species then between different project areas, which could be quite useful. So yeah, this is just an example of a project which you can search for you can see that in the menu, and then you can, as it shows on this left-hand side, you can search for nearby projects near where you are. It lists the projects you've joined, and you can search by name for a project. And then this just shows an example of a project I found near me called Wakehurst Place. And you can obviously quickly see the number of observations, number of species, number of members, and then view those records again in different ways. So this is a list of records within that project. And you can also use it. BioBlitz is a bit like a project, and if you're familiar with BioBlitzes, they're it's a communal effort to record as many species as possible within a designated location and time period. So it can be quite a good way to engage the public, to have a sort of public BioBlitz, if you like, where you welcome people in, and they can join the iNaturalist BioBlitz project, and can help sort of record the different species on the day in a sort of set area. And that's useful to record and monitor what you've got in your area, but also feeds into those wider databases that scientists can use. And yeah, it can be a great way of bringing different people together. For example, if you've got a kind of a keen birder, or a butterfly person, or different naturalists in your area, you can invite them along to sort of share knowledge, and meet with members of the public, and hopefully have a fun time doing it. And there's guides on iNaturalist about how to set that up, and this is just an example here of one at Salisbury District Hospital, which was set up for a particular specific date, I think. So you can see the number of observations, and yeah, it looks like it was just 3 observers, and they found 118 species, which is pretty good going in that in those sessions. So yeah, I'm going to cover iRecord now. Let's just make that smaller. So again, you would download this from the App Store, the Play Store on your phone, and it allows users to contribute species sightings with coordinates and descriptions for all UK species. And again, it's similar that you upload observations, but there are actually set experts which verify those records, defined by the different regions or counties often, and that's those records are then shared via the database network with other users and recording schemes. But yeah, it does have photo recognition, so you can again use it as a learning tool if you want to. It helps recognize what you've got, and yeah, it gives you automatic location coordinates, which speeds things up. Yes, again, you have to register for an account, and but it is directly linked with the iRecord website, and they've got additional features on there that you can set up, such as group recording. So this shows just some screenshots again to take you through it, to hopefully make it a bit easier to use. So you can add a record by pressing this central button down at the bottom, and the plus sign is just to add a record, a basic record without a photograph, or you can take a photograph with this button, or you can add a photograph from your gallery. And this little menu button has some setup lists. For example, a species list survey you can do. Whoops. A moth list survey and a plant list survey. So that kind of speeds things up in terms of doing a set lists of species. So this is a screen that comes up, and you can just type in a species name or even a genus or a family to add that species, and you can then add photos and get a suggested ID if you need to. So you can see that, again, from left to right, I've added that same hogweed image, and it hasn't registered yet. And again, it would give you automatically the grid reference of where you're located. But because I added this later on, I've then used the map. So I've clicked on location, and that opens the map tool that you can see here. And again, you can zoom in to where you recorded that species, and you can also type in the name, which it should recognize. And then if you click on the map where you found it, that gives it that red dot and the exact grid reference location. You can then click on species missing if you're not sure what it is, and that opens this page here that you can see, and it has recognized again the hogweed plant. So you can click on hogweed and add it to your record, your page here. So you can now see, I think we've got all the information we need there. We've got the species, the grid reference, the location, and it is good to be as accurate as you can with the location to a road or a park or a recreation ground, and put in the name of the site if you can, because you can actually then search for that site. For example, St Giles Hill Park in Winchester, if you were recording there, it would be good to type that in as the location, because you can then search for that location on the iRecord website, and anybody can find that data. So yeah, this is an example of a species list survey. Well, I was walking around on a guided walk, so you can see we've got the location information there, and the grid reference, the date, the recorder, and then all the different species. So we've got plants and butterflies, dragonflies, you can see birds. So that's quite a good way if you are doing more of a general walkover survey. That's useful to do, on a regular basis, to record what you're finding. That's a really good way of doing it, and adding those different species, and the green ticks there you can see where it has been verified by an expert. So in our record, for example, the butterflies would be verified by the Hampshire Butterfly Recorder. So yeah, I mentioned about exploring records, which you can do on the iRecord website, and you can go to, in the menus, you can go to explore all records, and it brings up a page a bit like this with different fields. And there is on one of the pages, there is a location field where, for example, I'm looking at Hook here, near Basingstoke. So there is a location field where you can just type in Hook and bring up all the records that are on the database. But to be more accurate, because there could, for example, be different place names with Hook in them, that it could bring up the records for that site. So in this case, you can actually draw. You can see this line, this area. There's a mapping tool where you can draw around the particular area you're interested in and get it to search the database in just that area to be more accurate. So for that area of Hook, we've got 764 records on iRecord, and then I've clicked on the species tab here. So it's given us a species list, again arranged by number of records. So for brimstone butterfly, there's near the top with 8 records. You can see there's other things on there like red kite and heather and different things. So again, quite a useful tool to explore. So similar to the projects in iNaturalist, you can do group recording yeah, I think it is called activities in iRecord to enable the compilation and reporting of records for particular sites or geographic areas. So again, like iNaturalist, you can identify a specific area, a park or verge or whatever it might be, and set up a project or an activity for that area that other people can join. And you can also do it for particular species if you wanted to, or groups of species. And this is just an example here that I found of Cairngorms National Park project. And you can see that it gives you this overview tab. It gives you a very quick overview with 780 species and the number of records, and then the pie chart there, a useful overview of the different species and different groups that are being recorded. Again, you can set it up to run a BioBlitz in projects, which can be useful. And so once a recorder has joined an activity, it's easy to submit records either on the website or the app. And the administrator can download the records to use how they want to. And also there are these different tabs there you can use to look at different visualizations of the data. So I think I've got to show that here on the trending tab. You can see some of the photos that have been submitted, and then some of the species that have been submitted, and indeed the recorders there, organised for that project. So just going to talk a little bit now about different recording and monitoring schemes because there's lots of great schemes out there, and there's some really good resources. And one of those really good resources is the Natural History Museum, because they've got a dedicated nature recording hub, which has got some really useful resources that like catalogues of survey methods and lists of the national recording schemes, and lots of identification guides as well. And I really like this survey calendar that you can see on the screen there, which has got lots of different recording and monitoring schemes, and through the year as well, which is really useful to see. So birds, for example, at the top here, you can see the BTO's Garden Birdwatch scheme, which runs right through the year, but it also highlights the Big Garden Birdwatch, which takes place in January, and the similar for the other species groups. So it's a great way, a great quick reference tool. And also these are all active links, so you can just click on the BTO Garden Birdwatch or the RSPB Swift Mapper, for example, if you're interested in that, and it will take you through to those schemes. So yeah, other lists, other areas. There's a Biological Record Centre website, and that has a list, some good lists you can refer to of national recording and monitoring schemes. And I mentioned the Hampshire Biological Information Centre has that list of Hampshire recording groups that are local to us in Hampshire, who can provide support, and you can submit records to them. And help with identification as well, actually. Yeah, I think the Natural History Museum, you can send images to them for help with identification. You may be familiar with some of the different Facebook groups. So the different, often species-related groups. For example, there's a Hampshire Butterflies and Moths group, and you can join that and add. If you're not sure of a butterfly or moth, then you can upload or add a photo onto Facebook, and people can help you with the identification. And we've been working quite closely with Hampshire County Council and their Pollinator Pledge, which is both a network, and they've got some useful toolkit surveys available on their website. And there's some really useful monitoring surveys they've got with both guidance and the templates on that toolkit webpage. So, for example, a pollinator count survey is quite a useful way of monitoring pollinators on a particular site. Yeah, you could do that monthly through the spring and summer, or even annually, and compare that and do the same survey each year to compare any changes. And they do something similar with grassland surveys. Yeah, so for example, if you've got a verge that you're looking to improve in the area you live, doing a basic grassland survey is a really useful way, as I mentioned before, about getting baseline data and then measuring change and improvements as hopefully it does get better for wildflowers. So just to talk about some different wildlife resources. If you can get a photograph, that's great. And you can use the app or the Facebook group. That's really useful. And there are different resources like the Wildlife Trust's How to Identify web pages, which you can see an example of here. So there's lots of different groups of animals there that you can click on to get more help with identification, and I'll give you more details about those different species. There's also Wildlife Explorer pages arranged by different animal and plant groups. So again, you can find more details for help with identification, and there's also a search function to get more information on a particular species. And yes, I mentioned I mentioned Natural History Museum, so they've got an Identify Nature page, and they've got some quite good downloadable guides as well on invertebrate groups, for example. We can see there one on bumblebees, amphibians and trees. So there's quite good, range of different resources on there. Then you might have come across the Field Studies Council laminated fold-out guides, which are fairly inexpensive but really useful laminated charts that are great as a quick reference tool for grassland plants, for example, or butterflies. You can see there, particularly if you're in a group of people, or you might be showing a group round, then they're a really useful sort of quick reference tool to sort of show people some of the different species. And yeah, I think this is the last slide actually. So we've obviously got a number of different training courses coming up, and which you're welcome to join. Some of these, well, the next one is a webinar. So I mentioned the pollinator and grassland surveys, the pollinator pledge survey. So we've got a webinar coming up to talk a bit more about those, and you can see some of the different surveys and training courses we've got coming up in different places. So have a look out for those. They're all on our website. Some of them are free, others where our ecologist is running them are paid courses, but we'd love to get a few more people on the Riverfly surveys course. So if anybody's interested in that in Winchester. And the butterfly one at the bottom there, Saturday 11th of July, that's fully booked, but we're looking to put on another one. So keep an eye out for that if that's of interest. So I think that is the last slide. So hope that was useful, and we can take some questions.